Hey, welcome to a Podcast Toys.
Podcast toys in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, galaxy far, far away. I was waiting for you to say the second part.
Well, welcome back. Episode number 2.
No, I'm supposed to say, welcome to Podcast Toys.
In a galaxy far, far away.
There you go. This is our second episode. We were going to talk about
Future items that we'd like to collect. I mean, I'm sure like we touched on base in the first podcast, the biggest thing is not so much what you already have, but what you would like to have in the near future, which is huge because, everyone's got a list of what they want. Me personally, my list is 5 pages long of stuff I want, but I can't.
He's wrote it down.
I've written it down because I've gone and sat down and said, hey, I got this figure.
But hey, there's nothing wrong with that though, because I did at one time have a list of stuff that I was have yet to
And for
get.
me, I don't know if anyone's noticed that, but I have very bad ADD, and it helps me focus on not so much I can just go on eBay and look at random 500 different items at once, but I can just search for that individual item and put some thought into it.
Let me ask you, how many searches do you have saved on eBay?
34.
Oh.
Approximately.
I got 91.
Okay.
A 91, yeah. Some of them are more important than other ones. Some of them are just generic because, a little secret here, you can find some really good deals because when people put something on there and they don't know what it is. So I've got one a saved search just says spaceship, and people don't know what to call it.
Just
So
throw
let's call
some
it
random
spaceship.
item on there.
Now, there's a lot of spaceships on there, so it takes a while to go through the list when you got time. But it's one of those generic searches that
Works really well.
I found some really cool items on there for a really good price because they didn't know what it was. And hey, they sold it, and I got a good deal, so everybody was happy.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I just bought a, what was it, 96? Is that the year they made that?
The
Rancor?
Rancor?
Yeah, I just bought a Rancor, and I'm waiting for it to come in the mail. And just I don't want to say the enthusiasm behind it, just waiting for the mailman to drop something off. I'm sure I've harassed my mailman enough that he probably hates me now. But just collecting and waiting for the next thing to come is very,
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of like you get your adrenaline going.
Anticipation.
Yeah. And
it's like Christmas.
Yeah. Except the mailman's not.
It's kind of like my Star Trek Eagle Moss subscription. I get one a month. Every once in a while, it's a special edition. And even though I don't have time to really, there's been times I didn't have time to literally open them up and look. But it was nice. I got the box, I know what it is. Don't know what's inside it sometimes, but it's something to look forward to. So you can mark Rancor off your list.
Yeah. And the Hyena Bomber.
Yeah,
that was the other one I bought last week.
Yeah, this is the Star Wars guy.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars is...
Even though he's got a Tron figure.
I do have a couple Tron figures.
Tron figures, that's pretty awesome. But, I love Tron. I'd love to have the vintage life cycles. That's on my list. The figures.
They're cool. But, I mean, the thing is...
They're blocky, they're chunky.
Yeah, they're very...
They're only 5 POA, and they don't look a lot like the movie actors, so I know it's sacrilege, but I really don't care about the figures, but I do want the life cycles.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I was just telling Scott the other day, I said, yeah, it's great to you bought that U-Wing, and I'm sure you were excited about that thing when the first time I told you about it.
Yeah. That was awesome, too.
And I was telling him,
Awesome
I was like, man, I really want one of those. If you don't buy that thing, I'm going to buy it.
It was a good price, too. Yeah, it was a good price. Daniel sold that to me. It was a good price because I remember seeing them in Walmart for twice that price.
I would say when they first came out, they were like $40, maybe even $50. And I said, I just can't pay. And that's the problem with some of the new figures. I mean, I love collecting, but there's certain times where I'll sit and look at something and I'm like, do I really want to pay that for that? And I think I can wait, there's been a couple instances where I've sat and banged my head against the wall because of how stupid I felt after not buying something when it was cheap.
Same here. I thought, I don't know, I want to spend that, and then it's gone. Dang it. I should have just bought it,
And I've had that experience I'm sure you remember the Temple Guards from. Well, those were originally about $6 a figure that weren't worth anything. Well, I just did some research on them, and I talked to Daniel at the flea market. I said, "Hey, what's the deal with those?" Because he had one. He's like, "Yeah, I want $65." And I was like, "Why didn't I buy that when I had the money? I should have bought it."
We can all say that. I've said that about cars before. Then there's some things that I've sold.
And you're like, "Why did I sell it for that much?"
I shouldn't have sold it. You know, I shouldn't have sold it, but I did. Can't go back in time. But one of the things that's on both of our lists that we want to get is the turbo tank. From which episode was it?
3, I believe. Episode 3.
Yeah. So, it wasn't in there that long, but it just looks like a cool toy.
And all the reviews I've watched on it are just outstanding. I think it was in the period where Hasbro wasn't getting enough, Star Wars wasn't getting enough appreciation, but they made really quality figures.
Yeah,
and,
awesome.
And I mean, all the Clone Wars stuff, people were like, Clone Wars are kind of lame. But then the figures were like...
Yeah, they were like ultra articulated.
Yeah.
And the vehicles, they were all freaking awesome.
Like really well put together.
Yeah,
like
and now people are looking back and saying, man, those are awesome.
Like, why did they make them that way now?
Yeah, they don't make them that way now. It's more expensive to make them that way. Now, that's, you know, it fell off that people stopped buying them as much. So Hasbro stopped making them as much, and then they went back to, 5 points of articulation. And now we want more articulation, but Hasbro doesn't want to do it because
nobody bought them from the get-go.
Yeah,
and
but that's not all the fans' fault, because I mean, I don't know, the way I look at it, it's all about money. But you should make a figure that is a good figure. I know there's guys, and I'm the same way. If I can't get it, if it has to be 5 POA, I'll get it. But if I can get the other version, I will. But we can get off on a tangent on there. So what else is on your list?
Wow, I don't have my notepad with me today.
Oh yeah.
I normally have it all written down. I know. A big one on my list was the AT-AP, which was the little. It had a ATTE cannon, but then it was like a little walker.
Oh yeah, I don't have that one either. I'd like to have that one. Yeah.
And I've been shopping online.
There's like a little green speeder too that I don't have.
Episode 1?
Episode 1. I've got the yellow one that's got the hood missing.
Oh no, that's episode 2.
Okay.
Coruscant Chase one?
Yeah. And that little green speeder, I don't know why I'm having trouble finding that. But
There's certain stuff in that period that was either really well sold, like sold collectors really wanted it, or
you see that little green speeder here and there, but it's missing parts. I don't have to have it. I have all the parts, but it's got to have them to where it looks okay. Not blatantly missing parts. Or I don't want to mess with it. I've bought toys before and tried to get the parts. I just rather just buy it nowadays. It can be more expensive sometimes to get the parts. But anyway, I've got all the Diamond Select Star Trek figures except for there's a couple of them that I need. The Romulan and there was a Romulan, and then there was a General Martok. I don't have. I got about 4 or 5 of them I don't have that's on my list. That it's in one of the saved searches on eBay. Barclay, he was a secondary figure on the Star Trek Next Generation, but he's one of the hard figures to get. But as far as Jabba's cell barge, I'm not really interested in that.
I mean, I could see paying. The price point for what it's. I mean, you could almost make one out of wood that would be half as cheap and paint it, and it would look the exact same. But I mean, it'd be a whole nother song and dance if they said, "Hey, it's $500, but it all comes apart, or it has a whole inside." From what I can tell, as far as what I've heard, it doesn't come apart.
Well, you need, Eagle Moss and D'Agostini, I think it is. They're starting to sell parts, in a subscription plan. I'd almost rather do that. I mean, even though it can get expensive, but they have a Millennium Falcon that you can get parts, and you can put it together over time. It takes you 2 years to pay for it and buy it. It comes, once a month. It's pretty cool.
I don't know if I'd have the 2 years worth of patience. Oh, wait.
I mean, you end up spending like $1,500 on it, but it's electronic. It looks cool. But my point is, they could have done something like that. You know, it's like I've got most of Mattel's Ghostbusters figures. I need Dana for the Mattel Ghostbusters figure. I need her. That one's crazy expensive. But I guess that was at the end of the run. But you know, why they didn't make a Ghostbusters ambulance in scale with those figures as a Build-A-Figure? I think Build-A-Figures are an awesome concept. I wish it would do more of that. I mean, the Diamond Sled come out with the Ghostbusters figures, and they had the top of the skyscraper diorama that come in with pieces. Actually, I don't have those yet. I want to get those. I mean, actually, I have all the figures. I bought them loose from a guy, but he kept the diorama, and I want the diorama. So.
Yeah, and I think Star Wars did it in, I think, 08 or 09, and they did the Build the Droid thing.
Yeah.
But they brought back a lot of these really cool droids that were just kind of seen for just a moment in the Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it made it fun for a collector, because you're saying, oh, I gotta buy 6, 7 different figures that you may not want, but you still get the outpay of.
Yeah.
I know that HK-47 droid that I want really bad, that was one of those Build-A-Figures, and now I can't find the figure anywhere unless I want to pay $120 a figure.
Well, the same thing with Marvel. They have the Build-A-Figure. I lucked out. I actually have Galactus Build-A-Figure from Toy Biz. That's freaking awesome. It's over there. I'd like to have
that 8 figure? 8 inches?
Yeah. Well, no, it's
12.
I'd like to have the Sentinel, but that was from Toy Biz back in the early 2000s, and it's expensive. That's on my list because I do have the newer Sentinel that they sold here a few years ago. It's cool, but it's not as good as the Toy Biz. That's kind of on my list. I'd like to have a bunch of the Toy Biz Marvel figures. They're just hard to beat. I mean, hard to beat. And a Hulkbuster. I want to get the Hulkbuster.
That is a pretty cool figure.
With the Age of Ultron movie, I want that Hulkbuster, but I haven't got it yet. Now, I had Toy Biz one that was pretty cool too. But I got a whole list. I mean, we can go franchise to franchise.
Yeah, I mean,
stuff I want.
I mean,
you're
probably gonna jump around, and I'm gonna stick with my Star Wars. No, but I mean, I've always collected Star Wars because it was so. I don't want to say so ridiculous in my family, but if you weren't watching Star Wars, you were shunned from the family, kind of a deal. And so we just grew up with. I mean, my brother's birthday was on when Episode 1 came out.
Oh yeah.
So Luke is actually. My parents used to always do the Aunt Beru Luke thing to him all the time.
What's his name?
Luke. Luke, and it drove him nuts. And now I'm like, anytime I do it to him, he looks like he wants to strangle me. But that's okay. Brotherly love.
Yeah.
But
well, I always got Scotty beam me up.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, you know, when on the certain figures I do want to collect, there's a couple out there that I know I'll never have, and it's the fact that they're always going to be in my reach. I'm just not going to be able to squeeze my hand and say I can pull.
Do you
the
want
trigger.
any of the vintage ones?
No.
Yeah. See, I've got all the vintage ones I want because there's 5 POA, and I just have the ones I have for nostalgia. That's it. What about the Force? The Power of the Force.
Don't get me going on those figures.
That would be considered. The Power of the Force 1 was still part of the vintage.
The Power of the Force 2 was when they started getting.
The mid-90s. Yeah, Power of the Force 2 is just.
And I noticed that the Clone Wars figures, for whatever reason, I mean, even if you're not a fan of that franchise, really, and the animated TV show, they made the figures just. Like Commander Cody, for example, was like a really well put together figure. Removable helmet, articulation. He's got a scar on his face. That's how Commander Cody really looks, and he's got a jetpack, and it's just the little fine details that make the figure that much more. You know, you could get a figure that's blocky, and then you can get a figure that's really well put together.
Those Power of the Force 2 are just over muscled. They just look silly. I think they got the hint, and toward the end of the line, I noticed they started trimming them down. But they had some vehicles that are pretty awesome. That Snowspeeder was awesome.
Snowspeeder, TIE Interceptor.
Yeah. They had some pretty awesome. So, but then after they got out of that, they went to the Saga collection, the Legacy collection. Now there's so many collections, I can't keep up with it. I have to go to rebelscum.com.
Yeah, I go to Jedi Business.
Yeah, or Jedi Business to see what all is out there.
And some of the figures are like, I mean, they made some of these figures in a line that were similar, but then they changed like one small detail, and then that figure's out there, and then another figure's just like,
and repaints and stuff like that.
There's a couple, like for example, Jango Fett. Jango Fett has that blue. He's got silver armor with blue Under Armour, and then there's another version of that I have that's purple, and I'm like, I never saw him with purple.
Yeah. It's almost getting like those variant comic book covers in the 90s. Mm-hmm. It's burnt me on comic books. It's because of that crap I stopped collecting comic books.
And see, I mean, I for the longest time when people were like, oh, you know, reading comic books is cool, you grew up with it more in your era.
Well, comic books were affordable, and
there wasn't
as many things. You couldn't just stream a movie whenever you wanted to, but you can go back to a comic book whenever you wanted to. You carry it around in your back pocket. But then in the mid-90s, the variant covers, and they jacked the price way up because it got popular and they got greedy. And
they overprinted everything.
They burnt me. I'm done. Yeah. Now all those comic books I was collecting, the art and the stories are still good. Don't get me wrong on that. It's just
the total market value for the items were nothing. I mean, I went to a guy at a
the distributors and stuff got greedy, you know, and the comic book companies got greedy.
I think they tried to overshoot the market of what people were really reading and what things were worth.
Yeah, it took on a life of its own. I mean, because I was there, you know. Death of Superman came out, you know, and it's just they had all these die-cut covers and prismatic covers and variant covers, fold-out covers, and it's just.
I think they try to overdo it.
Yeah, it's just too much, you know, and make a quality product that everybody can afford. I mean, I go back to McDonald's all the time. McDonald's may not be a quality product, but it tastes the same every time. It has consistency. You know, and some quality there.
And I think that's the problem with the comic books. I mean, because I went to this flea market in Seattle, and I said, "Hey, man, how much you want for this box of comics?" And I'm talking a box. Yeah. And he goes, "I'll give you, I'll sell them to you for $5." And I'm talking 50 to 100 comics in the box. And I'm like, "What am I going to do with these comics? They're not worth."
And you can go to Comixology and read a bunch of them now online.
I know.
Download them in your phone.
Amazon Kindle is doing they're redoing
Amazon owns Comixology. I think. Anyway, we're getting off subject.
Yeah, we are.
So, what other? I know you got a ton of Star Wars stuff.
I do. Well,
Daniel or James wants all Star Wars stuff. He wants all Star Wars stuff.
Hey, well, that's not entirely true. If I found something I was more passionate about than even Star Wars, I might start collecting it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so hard to. I mean, I love Tron. Don't get me wrong. I grew up with Tron.
You should see Stargazer.
I know I should. I watched all the Star Treks, but it's once your mind is so set in a certain way, at least my mind with growing up, we had all the Star Trek movies. Don't get me wrong, I love the Wrath of Khan and the Search for Spock, and those movies are all great.
Yeah,
and then they made, the Next Generation, which I started to follow, but I wasn't a Star Trek fan growing up. It was either Star Wars or you get your head ripped off in the family like a Wampa.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
And I mean, you have.
I care for both of them. My first one was Star Trek. I'm gonna make a Star Trek video one of these days. But yeah, the first thing I saw, actually, the first sci-fi I ever saw was Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Which, anyway. Since you're just on Star Wars, what else would you be? I mean. Now I gotta say for vintage though, the Death Star playset is cool.
It is.
I think you should get that.
It might have to be on my list.
Yeah, because I got it over there. And
I think the only other thing I'd really be really passionate about, I used to collect, and before I moved here, and was the Walking Dead figures, and I had them all hanging on my wall, and I thought just the way they looked, the realism. I mean, I had a Daryl figure that looked exactly like how he looks in the show, long hair.
Now, who makes those? McFarlane, yeah.
and they're really well done. I mean, yeah, they're $20 a figure, but if you just hang them up on the wall as a really nice collectible item, then you're like, oh, I appreciate that. That's well put
It's like
together.
a balancing act, you know. High quality is going to cost more, but you know,
But then
if it's too much, nobody's going to be able to afford to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, no, some people aren't going to
See,
just.
that's the thing. I've only seen one part of one episode of Walking Dead. I just never. I'm not a zombie. I don't care about zombies.
What? Zombies are great.
Yeah.
He's in
it
it.
doesn't interest me. So I don't have any zombies in my collection except for I think Ash, Evil Dead. I guess Evil Ash. He's a zombie maybe, but he's my McFarlane. But those figures are more action figures. They're action figures slash statues. A little bit of architect, but I had to have them because they look so cool, and they're off of interesting franchises.
Yeah, and I mean another one for me would probably be, if I was going to collect anything, it would be Gears of War figures.
Oh yeah, I've
Because
got one of those.
They look very realistic, and
Yeah.
just the quality that they're made. It's not cheap. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like they're mass produced, but they somehow carry their value.
Yeah. I've got Kratos. It's a cool looking figure. Yeah, somewhere. I did have him. I just looked upon him and I liked the way he looked. I've never played Gears of War. Or no, I'm thinking God of War. Yeah.
Is that the one with the red stripe and the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Oh, Gears of War's the one with the chainsaw. You run around with a chainsaw gun, and chop
Oh.
up enemies.
I don't have time to play games
I don't
anymore.
either.
I wish I did, but I don't. So
But that's the another one I'd want to collect is that new hover tank from Rogue One that they made. But I
yeah.
just don't see spending $90 on a tank that's.
it looks awesome.
It does look well put together,
Yeah,
but I just.
I listened to Entertainment Earth podcast, and he did a review. Of course, you can't see it; it's a podcast, but it sounds pretty awesome. I've seen pictures of it. I'd like to have that. That's on my list to get one of these days. It's really anything from Rogue One. I just love Rogue One.
Yeah, I think I sold you a couple of my Rogue One figures.
Yeah.
TIE Striker, that was a good.
Oh
that was
yeah,
a good
that's
deal.
awesome. That's an awesome design. I love it. And of course, I already had some of the other vehicles from Star Wars, which fit right in with the Rogue One. Like I've already got the X-wings and stuff, and I don't think you even made any for that movie. X-wings for Rogue One. You didn't have to. They've already been out.
Yeah. And I mean that kind of Rogue One kind of crossed over with the Force Awakens, so it was the X-wings they did make were like Poe's X-wing from the Force Awakens, which was okay, but I mean I'd personally rather have a lot bigger ship and pay more money than have some
that
smaller.
leads me into my next question. What do you wish they would make?
What do I wish they would make? Oh, that's a tough question. I would like, more than anything, to have a Super Star Destroyer that was big, but not so much, excuse my French, but a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Something that looks good and sizable, but it doesn't look like, I don't know how to explain it, but you know, they made like, what's the one ship you have, the
Star Destroyer?
the blockade
Oh,
runner?
the blockade. Well, I got the Star Destroyer there beside it. Yeah.
But I'd like to make either.
It's the extra large action fleet. That's what they are.
Yeah, I'd like them to make something like that you could still pick up and play with, but
Yeah.
not have it.
Yeah.
Some
Well,
giant